What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with my buddy Austin Parkman. He is a junior telecommunications major from San Antonio, Texas. He is also a saxophone in the Fightin' Texas Aggie band with B Company, which is super amazing. And he is here with us to talk about his experience with the Corps of Cadets, how God has been moving in that department, and just his experiences in college. And I am super, super excited to have him on. Super man of God, super duper friend. Without further ado, I'm going to pray us in. Hey, God, thanks so much for Austin. Thanks so much for this time where we get to come together and really see you just flourish. Hopefully this conversation is glorifying to you. I pray that we can be building each other up, that we could be bouncing off one another with ideas, with just this exchange of words that goes on. God, I pray that you would always be on our lips, that you would never be absent, and that your spirit would just be filling us with joy, with, again, encouragement, that we would be edifying both to each other and to people outside of this room, that whoever hears this message, they would just be drawn to you, to your gospel, Lord, if only out of curiosity. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Yes, bro. So good to have you back. I know we tried this a couple weeks ago, and
it was awesome.
That first setup was a little bit rocky, but we got her down, and thank the Lord that we did. We kind of actually can do this.
Yeah, definitely.
But
definitely.
no,
yeah.
But just how was your week, bro? I haven't actually seen you since, I guess, MLK Day.
Yeah, it was actually very, very good. And dang, we haven't.
I know.
Yeah. On Tuesday, well, I don't even remember Monday at all. It was weird. But I remember on Tuesday, I had a ton of work to do, or at least felt like it. And then we went to formation, which is sort of around 6 o'clock.
Gotcha.
The Corps does a formation before we all go into Dunkin' to eat dinner.
Right.
And got back from that around 7:30. And one of the sophomores in my outfit, this guy named Sam Ochoa, was like, "Hey, Austin, we're going to Breakaway. You want to go?" And I was like, because I thought I had so much work, but then I thought about it, and I was like,
I can do it.
I was like, I literally couldn't think of a single thing that I had left to do, and I was like,
no
what
excuses.
the heck? And so I was like, all right, and so we went, and it was awesome.
It was
awesome.
good.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah. I didn't see you there, but I can imagine that you went there. Anyway, TA, the message was just incredible, and it really made me realize just how lax I've been recently in terms of pursuing God and just doing my ultimate best to learn and increase my faith. And so really opened my eyes, and just sort of the job that I'm doing as chaplain too. And so I got back and we did a prayer meeting that night with the upperclassmen, which was awesome. And then 2 days later did one with the fish, which was good.
Nice.
Yeah. It's
that's so cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Then I went to a Bible study on Wednesday that was awesome, and then went to I had a discipleship meeting yesterday on Friday, which was super cool.
Mm-hmm. With Grace, or with the...
With Grace. So the Bible study I do is with, it's run through Grace Anderson, which is the church I go to here in College Station. And it's run by this guy named Warren Smith, who is in the Corps. Yeah, I had to do an on-campus Bible study because it's funny, I was wondering, so I got stuck parking at West Campus Garage, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and the dorm that I'm in with the Corps is right next to Southside Garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so because there was a big deal where I completely missed signing up for housing, which also affected my signing up for parking. This year I got stuck out at West Campus, and I was like, it's such a long walk. That's why one of the reasons it took me so long to get over here.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
Yeah, I've been wondering all year. I'm obviously this is gonna have some purpose. Everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And this is a really big thing. There's
Your
a lot of
parking has a
time
purpose.
that goes into walking out there. So I'm God is gonna use this somehow. And I was thinking about it actually today as I was walking out of my car, and I just realized if I had my car with me, I probably would have been okay. Or if I had my car in Southside, I probably would have been okay going to any Bible study, But because my car was over there, I ended up really looking for an on-campus one.
Yeah.
And that's how I got introduced to
There's awesome
the
core
one
study.
that I'm going to. Yeah. Well, it's not just core. It's on campus, but it's run by Warren Smith, who's in the core. And he brings, there are a lot of core people who show up. But his co-leader is this girl named Grace, who's super cool. And she's not in the core. And, so it's core and non-rings alike, just on-campus Bible study. And so, and then the discipleship group is with Warren and a couple of other people from that Bible study.
Got you.
Yeah.
Just bros being bros. And
yeah. And I did one with him last semester, and so I'm honestly really considering, and he's telling me to do it, starting one of my own with a couple of my people from my outfit. So, yeah.
I know. You've got that amazing message, bro. Just, shove it into... Yeah, study for him. Mm-hmm. No, and I guess, we've more than hinted at it already that you are in the Corps of Cadets, and more than that, you're in the Fightin' Texas Aggie Band.
Whoop.
And that's a really just interesting place to be. It's such, it is the heart of A&M's culture. Y'all are the keepers of the spirit and all that. Yeah, just pump your chest a little bit. Go for it, bro. No, it's, but it is amazing, just how committed you guys are, and that's the word that just immediately comes to mind. But I know that it's also... in the college environment, and so that means that it's an opportunity to witness for sure, and it's an opportunity for Christ to be proclaimed. And I know you've been really working hard at doing that, and it would be awesome for anybody listening to hear how that's been for you, trying to not reconcile but merge your passion for the Corps of Cadets and your buddies and your friends, but also your passion for Christ and the gospel.
Excuse me.
You're good.
I would say, goodness, I try to do that just in how I live on a daily basis, and just sort of show people what it means to be a follower of Christ by doing that to the best of my ability. And because if I go out of my way to be hey, watch me follow Christ, that's going to get on people's nerves. And if I go hey, you should follow, that's me telling them what to do. And
people don't like that.
People don't like that, but in the core, people really don't like it. So I figured the best way I can do is just do the thing and
the thing.
The follow God, and in doing it, I know that at least when I'm doing a good job of it, God, through me will show just how awesome that is to other people. Right. And so, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I've heard you tell stories, and you don't have to tell any specific one right now. It's whatever you're comfortable with sharing. But I know you've had opportunities, especially as BCO's chaplain, to kind of have fish mentees. Is that the right way of saying it?
Yeah.
Oh, are you the mentor? I don't know.
So the way it works is in the Corps, especially at least in BCO, we have white belt mentors.
Gotcha.
So the way it works is here we go. All right.
Here we go.
Corps talk. But you have the freshmen and sophomores, when they wear their khaki uniforms, they wear a black belt. Yeah. And when juniors and seniors wear a white belt. So when you're talking about those two groups in particular, you call them white belts and black belts, because that's pretty much the most.
It's the only time you want to be a white belt.
Exactly.
In karate? Yeah. No.
I'm still a white belt in karate,
Really?
I earned my yellow belt, but my mom said we're not paying for that. And so I am.
She break a foam board, and she's nah, you got to earn it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, I am undefeated though. I could.
Want to know, bro?
Yeah. I went into a tournament. No, I went into a tournament and won. I got first place, but it was for 4-year-olds.
Okay.
And all you had to do was touch the other person. And I don't know what it was with these kids I was going up against. I was just
man.
And
pop them in the nose.
They're you win, and I'm all right, dude, this is easy. But yeah, so still a white belt. But yeah, so you have white belts, juniors, seniors, black belts, freshman, sophomore. So you have white belt mentors. So you have each freshman and sophomore. Each person in those two classes will have a white belt mentor. So a white belt, junior or senior, who they meet up with on a regular basis, who can talk about them, about school, about the Corps, about just life, about just anything. And it's super chill. It's always super chill. And so, especially for the fish, it's a nice opportunity to actually get to talk to your upperclassmen, because often fish the way it works is just
it's really formal. And there's a lot of walls.
Very, very formal. A lot of walls. Yeah. Very professional, and like you're not really able, or at least like I guess like supposed to.
It's kind of taboo to
be
hanging
you can
around
always like sort of
upperclassmen.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just holes to jump through, and
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, and so it's a nice way where you can sort of like drop all that, like drop the hoops and whatnot, and just like get down to like just talking like person to person.
It's good stuff.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like as chaplain, that's sort of like where I thrive, and like yeah. And so yeah, I have my white belt mentees. I have two of them. Are Fish Norris, who is
heck of a
hysterical. Oh my gosh! And then Daniel Deanda, who was fish drill team commander last year, and now is a hound, which is like one of the people who trains the upcoming freshmen for the fish drill team.
Gotcha.
And he's also just an amazing sophomore and an amazing human being. Like,
right.
It's funny because like I've told him this. Like we'll meet up, and it's like me counseling him, and then I'll leave the meeting being like feeling like the one who just got all the counseling. Like, literally, he's unbelievable, and so
I feel that.
Yeah, it's super cool. Super cool.
I mean, it definitely sounds like discipleship. Like literally, it is, and maybe I'm sure they kind of like steer you a little bit away from just being like an explicitly like Christian, message whenever you're talking to them, or like having any kind of agenda. But I'm sure that like it's either come up, or that like I know in your heart at least, like whatever message you're sending, it has love and Christ's love at its root, which is like super. Yeah. I mean, amazing. Have you gotten to, beyond like your mentees specifically, gotten to witness to anybody in particular, like this past year, especially as chaplain? Like, has any relationship kind of budded or formed, in that way?
Well, I'll say I know Daniel Deanda. He started coming along with me because he knew. It's so funny how all this works. He knew Warren, the guy who leads the Bible study that I go to. They knew each other because they both went to A&M Corpus together for a year.
Gotcha.
Before coming over to the Corps and transferring in, or coming over to A&M and transferring in rather. And so, so he heard that Warren was leading this Bible study. He's like, "Oh, can I come?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so now he's coming, and then he's brought a couple of his buddies into it. And so
that's good stuff.
2 weeks ago, we had him, me, and then two of his buddies. Blake Herring and Madden Barham, who are both just like top-notch people.
Nice.
And then last week Madden couldn't make it, but Blake still made it, and Daniel. So it's like I'm slowly trying to get it to become like the B-Co Bible study, like we're encroaching, But and so that's been really, really cool. And there have been specific instances like all over the place. Like I remember one time, this guy, I'll say his name, Ross Beasley. He's like another sophomore who's just. I can't get over how amazing our sophomores are.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. But, awesome dude. And it was like early in the year. Excuse me. And he asked to speak to me. And so I like went in, like talked to him. I was like, "What's going on?" And he was like, so he said he was having difficulty like determining the difference between Ross and, as he put it, Mr. Beasley.
Gotcha.
So like, when the sophomores are like training the fish in terms of like how everything in the Corps works, like you're going to keep your bed like this, your desk is going to look like this, there's going to be no dust, and doing all of that, like the sophomores have to be very, very stern, to get the point across, and so they can't really like be laughing and joking around because then like the fish
no
are
one
gonna
takes
be,
them
like,
seriously.
This is exactly, and so. And especially in B Company, we stress intensity, and so like our sophomores are very like on the ball about everything, and it's like if you screw up just a little bit, they will be like
on you.
Yo, what is up? Like, and so they won't say that, but
they'll have different words to say.
Yeah, exactly. But yo, man, exactly. Yeah, but and so he was just having difficulty like figuring out like the difference between like
his professional self
and his
perceived actual self.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he was talking to me about that, and he was saying, because he was like, some of his buddies had said that like sometimes he would like sort of step in and like when let's say for example Blake and Madden or like training a couple of fish, they would say that like Ross would come over and like totally sort of like cut them off and start training. And then he was like, but like I'm just doing, like if I see something wrong, I'm going to fix it. So like where do I stop? Where do I start? And he was just like completely confused on all that. And I was able to just sort of like sit down with him and be like, listen, like you're very, very, very good at this.
Yeah, be easy on yourself.
Yeah, be easy on yourself. And just like the one favor you can do is just like, especially like with training in the Corps, like just have 100% confidence in whatever you do. Yeah. Don't never second guess yourself.
As you were.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, that's what you say whenever, if you screw up in front of the freshmen, instead of saying like, oh, I mean, you say as you were to like imply that like, because you're supposed to have like this sort of image of perfection, and so it's just a fun little thing.
Fun little thing.
Yeah, like I like it, but yeah, and so but like if you were to go up to a freshman and start training them, and then like in the back of your mind think, oh my gosh, I totally just cut that person off, like, and like worry about like, oh my gosh, what is he thinking? And they see
that worry.
Yeah, what is he thinking about that now? Okay. Now I'm uncomfortable. Does the fish see that I'm uncomfortable? Oh no. Now that's affecting his impression of me. And then like...
And then they're uncomfortable as well.
Like, it just... Your mind goes into a complete, like, tizzy right in front of... And it's just like... And it doesn't even look that bad from the outside. But, like, it's, like, very subtle. And it can, like, take a toll on you mentally. But...
Especially when it comes to, like, building a team, building a company. And you want that camaraderie. And you want that trust in between, you know... Just... all the way down the hierarchy, you want to have that level of like, okay, you can take what I say and you can believe that it will lead you in the right direction.
Yeah, big time. And so like, instead of like worrying about that, I was like, just have 100% confidence in what you do. So if you realize that like, oh my gosh, I just cut someone off, like, okay, like, but finish what you were saying and then be like, now like pay attention to my buddy, or like go back to what you were doing and something like that. Like, so if you realize you butt in on someone, just like finish what you're doing, like, so that obviously like show them like your butting in had a purpose, and then get out as quickly as possible, and then like, you know, don't worry about it, you know. And then like after this super long conversation we had, I like got up and I was like, can I pray for you? And he's like, sure. And so I got to say a prayer over him, and I was just talked about like, I thank God for Ross, and I was like, for the incredible trainer that he is, for the incredible person he is, for the passion that he has for what he's doing here in the Corps and the band and everything. And
that's huge.
Yeah, and just prayed for his confidence and whatnot. And he has been stellar. Like,
really?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, and like I just remember like he like, I don't know, it feels weird to like say like he looked at me and he seemed like just sort of amazed, and it's like that's obviously not like, it's not me,
right,
that he's amazed with, you know. It's like it's God, you know, that
definitely.
Yeah, because it's like that's how, like I talked about this yesterday with the whole group that I was with. Yeah, like that's how the Holy Spirit works, you know. It's like I didn't really do anything. I like God worked through me into Ross and gave him confidence, you know.
It's always God first. And I had my partner Micah, co-chair, I should say. That word can probably be confusing. But
yeah, seriously.
But I had her in earlier today, and we were talking about that same thing. And I feel like it's definitely going to be a common theme as anybody comes on. It's just like the Spirit kind of takes precedence in the best moments. And those moments that we really remember when God was working, it's usually when we've allowed ourselves to step back and we've allowed God to take full control of whatever our words are, with whatever our actions may be, with what direction we're turning, with who we're talking to and stuff like that. And it's just amazing to watch, literally watch, and not so much participate, but like just spectate on the Spirit intervening in somebody's life and really convicting them with whatever that is. So that's like super dope that you get to have, I mean, all kinds of relationships. And I know it's super familiar, like really family oriented in the Corps. You guys definitely become so close, and that can kind of have its ups and downs and whatnot. But it's awesome that you get to reflect Christ in that space and just like be an example, and like knowing you, like you do a stellar job of it. I can brag on you a little bit. Good buddy. Yeah, but I mean, you are also a man of many talents, and you and I both spent, I guess, 2 summers together at Concordia SA back in San Antonio. And we were, working with the youth a lot, but you particularly, like this last summer, got to work with a man by the name of Ryan Hall.
Yes.
And do, media arts and worship, technical and stuff like that, and got to produce, got to edit. You're doing that for us here at the podcast, which I super appreciate, by the way, because I can't do it worth a lick.
Honestly, it's not difficult. Like,
really?
Oh yeah.
You'll have to teach me eventually.
Yeah. The only obstacle is the price of the software, which is kind of steep, but like
worth it.
Oh yeah.
Final Cut.
So worth it, but
yeah. But before we get on that tangent, let's walk through your experience just at Concordia, because you've grown up there like your whole life.
Yeah.
And then also like specifically just like getting to do media, getting to edit, getting to produce, and kind of having again this like spirit of the gospel in the back of your mind, in the front of your mind, wherever it is, guiding you and directing you as you're doing what you love.
Well,
maybe not start with the beginning of your life. That's a little too far back. Might be daunting.
Well, I mean, like, I grew up in Concordia.
Yeah.
So, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So, like,
in the first grade.
Exactly. Like, it was before that, even. I went to, like, tiny tots. I was, like...
Yikes.
1. But, yeah, so, but we didn't start going to church there until I was in, like, 3rd grade? 5th grade? I don't remember.
Nice.
Yeah, we went to St. Andrews, which sort of, like, imploded into a whole bunch of political stuff. Aww. So we got out of there, had a good time. But, yeah, so, yeah, grew up going to school at Concordia and didn't really, like, find editing really until, like, high school, but I was still going to church there.
Gotcha.
And, well, actually, no. I'll say I started going to church at 8 a.m. with my dad. And, with Dad. And then I...
Michael J. Parkman.
Yeah, Michael K.
K. Parkman. You're Austin.
I'm Austin J.
You're Austin J. Parkman.
Yes.
Okay.
Michael Keith Parkman, class of 81. But yeah, yeah, so started going there with him and doing camera, running the RoboCam.
Yeah.
So we're sort of in a big sanctuary, and so like we have 2 big screens on either side of the pastor, and so I'm Pastor Tucker, and then just so everyone can like see him, and obviously to have him up there you need a camera, and because especially back when he was like younger, he was like freaking mobile.
He still gets around.
Oh yeah, he still does, but like Ryan has really gotten him to like. I don't know, like
stay still.
Oh yeah, seriously. Like especially since he got like the iPad stand now. As opposed to like walking back and forth to the pulpit, he doesn't really move at all. But excuse me. Yeah,
moves the people.
Like back then, he would go all over the place. So you need to be able to move the RoboCam, but you needed to like
be steady.
Keep him like sort of info. Like you can't just like freaking like wait for him to finish moving and then like because that's gonna be distracting.
Yeah.
You have to like, follow him as he goes, and like if
technique.
He was like the Barry Sanders of pastors. He would like give you like little bobs and weaves and fakes, and you're just like, but like you have to like keep the camera movement smooth the entire time so that he doesn't get like blurry on the screen.
You ever think of making a playbook and just like checking the routes and stuff like that?
Yeah, honestly, I wish. Like, because he would give us his sermon notes, but yeah, he would never give me, like, I'm going to run, like, a halfback sweep in the middle. Like, when I start talking about why God does this, like, I'm going to freaking run a reverse across the stage. I'm going to jump on top of the, like.
Lo and behold.
Lo and behold. But, yeah, so I really got good with at least robotic cameras and just, like, sort of the idea of, like, camera work in general at a young age in, like, 8th, maybe 7th grade.
Nice.
And I would do 8 a.m., 9:30, and then would...
sit at 11.
Yeah, sit at 11. So it was, like, 2 services every week. And then that's sort of where it got started. And, like, I always loved, like, taking pictures and videos when I was a kid. Like, I remember we went to Disneyland one time, and my dad gave me the camera.
Rip.
And this was like on our road trip, and I was like,
digital camera or like a little...
It was like a digital camera.
Okay.
Yeah, it like
big mistake.
Yeah, because like he would give us like the Kodak cameras.
Yeah.
And I was like, but like there was never like he gave me digital one, and like you could like zoom and stuff, and I was like, and like,
Ah.
yeah, I know. And so, but he like, told me, he's like, just make sure like whenever you take a picture, like keep everything level and all that. And so like that's sort of, and like I was like, woo! Like I don't even know what it was. Like there was just a very natural like excitement about like I can take pictures and like
I can stop time.
Yeah, exactly. Like so yeah, like I feel like God really put that passion into my heart
From a young age.
From the instant I had the opportunity. Yeah, from a young age. But
from Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly. That's where all wonderful things begin. Yeah.
Some wonderful things.
Some, yeah. But yeah. And so yeah, and that carried on. And then in high school, I was on the tennis team for 3 years. That fourth year,
Whoop.
Yeah, that fourth year, I had sort of burned out because I had been playing tennis for like 10 years, and I like.
It's like 6 more than I had.
Yeah, I know. Like I was done, and so I was like, all right, this is no. And so
got to manage
during that last year. Yeah, you managed. Yeah. Like I was offered a management position, and I was like. Nah, like I just wanted like the complete break off. You know, if I'm gonna leave the team, I'm gonna leave. You know,
yeah.
So like
you don't want to like be half in.
Be that guy who's like, I was on the team last year. Remember that, guys? But I'm not good enough to be on it anymore.
Oh, something.
So it was sort of like a mix because I just stopped practicing.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, I don't want to practice, and then like went to the tryout. Didn't do very good. So, like, yeah. And so, no regrets, though, honestly, because it led to, me getting really good at basketball. And then also, it led to, I started taking an audio-video class at Churchill. And that was where I learned how to edit. Ooh. And, like, oh, my gosh. Like, if there is not a more, like, just satisfying
moment
thing, like because like literally like, and I remember I tried to bring this up the first time we did this,
right?
But like we got cut off.
We did. It's a bum.
My technology. But,
it's a sad.
Yeah, it was a bummer. But like with editing, it's like the one thing where I can like see what I want to happen, like with what I'm about to do,
and make it happen
in my head, and make it happen. Pretty much exactly like that.
Yeah.
Just with enough work
Element
and like
control,
with enough tweaking.
Yeah.
Like you can do anything you want down to the frame, which is like I think if it's like 30 FPS that typical videos run, it's like 1/30th of a second. Like down to the 30th of a second you can control this production that you're making. And like it's so satisfying when you finally put something together. And like that's where I really learned that. And that's what got me into editing, which got me into interning, at least the second year. Yeah. The first year, I was just like, I'll intern.
We're chilling.
I need a place to intern, and I'll work with the more sports people. And I learned a lot about, like, sound and microphones and setting all that up.
Mixing. And
Yeah. Which was really cool. But the editing internship, like, working with Ryan Hall and, like, recording video, putting videos together, learning about, like, titles and
B-roll.
Yeah, B-roll. Whew! Like that was super cool. Like and all of that and like working on the audio and like directing.
Right.
Like directing those video announcements like when people would like sort of screw up but not realize that they had and like talking to them about like okay, that was good, but you didn't do this and like you know again like learning how to coach them to the point where you don't sound like
authoritarian,
and you don't sound
encouraging.
Like encouraging,
but not patronizing.
Exactly. Yes. And so learning all of that was just so awesome. And so and it was cool to be able to do that for the church. And like be able to make those videos every Sunday. And and then I also got to go on the mission trip and do a bunch of video taking there, which was so much fun. And and like Ryan. It was so cool! Like, Ryan gave me a microphone, and, like, if you're interested in making little, like, I guess, documentaries or whatever.
Vlogs and stuff.
You can literally, like, you need an iPhone.
And a lapel mic.
Or a lapel mic, or just, like, what he gave me was the handheld mic. And I didn't know if you have, like, an aux, or no, it's not aux. What is it?
I think it is. The lightning bit. connector.
Well, yeah, the dongle, the dongle.
What? Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The little thing like for a headphone jack.
Right.
Yeah, but with a microphone, you need what's the cable that goes into?
Just an AV cord? No.
Maybe I don't know, but like get a microphone. Like you get a handheld microphone. And
all you need.
Whatever cord goes into that, and then you need an adapter for that kind of cord into. A headphone jack-esque cord, and then, a...
bunch of adapters, pretty much.
You need two. It's just two. Like one to get it from the microphone cord in, I think it's like AVI? I don't freaking know. And then into the headphone jack cord, and then just the little dongle. It comes with the iPhone, I'm pretty sure. Or it comes with...
the newer ones.
Yeah. It comes with the newer ones.
Because people were upset that you had to, like...
Exactly.
Because they took away the headphone jack, and people were like, but my headphones.
Exactly, yeah. My aux cable in my car. Yeah. So,
help.
Yeah.
I'm being oppressed.
I don't want to spend more money. Yeah.
Thanks, Apple.
Yeah, seriously. But you take... Yeah, and then you take that and you put it in. Or if you have a phone that has a headphone jack, just get the headphone jack adapter. And you can plug it in, and like literally, you can just hand someone a microphone, plug it into your phone, and it works.
Yeah.
There's no app that you need. There's no freaking like software update. You just and it works. And I was like, what the heck? And like it was so cool. And so like I would like go to people's work sites. Like you remember your we could show it. Honestly, we could cut in, but like
yikes.
Like I would. Go, like, people would be working on like a house or something,
right?
And we would go, and in my mind right now, I'm thinking if we put this video like online, we could have it like pop up right here, like sort of in a mini box on its own.
Did I send it? Oh, do you still have it? Because you sent it to me.
Of course I have it. Yeah.
Oh,
but yours or like the Kyle Greig ones and Sean Flynn, and just have it like muted up here so you can see the visual. But
with Oliver's blurred face.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, that was Klein's doing. Yeah.
But clever.
Yeah, and so like I would give them the mic and like sort of film them, and they would like sort of hold it while it was connected to the thing. Right. And then
give a tour of the house.
I'd be like, so what's your workspace like? And they're like, oh, so we're working on this here. We're working on like touching up the paint here, and if you follow me around the corner, we'll do the and like everything like that. Yeah. And that was so much fun.
I went a little bit overboard in mine, I remember.
Yeah. You went Chrisley Knows Best, right?
Yeah.
That was the voice you were going for?
I don't know if it was exactly...
We got a walk-in closet right here where the garage used to be, and it's like a closet that's like 2 feet deep. Oh my god. Yeah.
Well, I remember we took it back like outside towards like the deck and stuff, and it's just kind of it's like beat up grass. It's like it's a kind of a rough neighborhood. I'm like, well, I could see us having a little country picnic out here, and if you look at that tire right there, that was left by the friendly neighborhood hobo last week. We're going to try to get him to return it.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
I remember way too much about that.
Oh my gosh.
I loved it though. It was so funny.
It was so much fun. And so doing that, and then I had this little Osmo thing, which is like a 3-axis gimbal, which is one of those it's like a camera, what do you call it? Stabilizer.
Yeah.
Makes steady shot pretty much. And you hold on to it and you put your phone in it, and like you can walk around and it just makes this picture very still.
Right.
As you move and pan and zoom and whatnot. And I would like get videos of people working for like B-roll and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
so it was so much fun. And like everyone loved it. Like you'd show up with the camera and they'd be like, "Wah!" And like it's like, dude. Yeah, and so really, really, really cool. Really, really cool. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And the mission trip itself was just
amazing. But it always is. Mega's awesome.
It is. It's so good. But yeah.
And I think I mean definitely getting back to we talk about like the nitty gritty of like going around and like the cables and stuff like that. That was interesting. But like it's amazing how, from a young age you were into it, just like seeing your passion, like having other passions as well, like pursuing tennis and kind of realizing maybe not for me after 10 years of commitment. That's like, a heck of a lot of time. But like just how God led you there. And like really from the beginning, you were using your gifts and talents to serve the church. And that kind of talent has just like been growing and budding ever since 7th, 8th grade, at whatever speed it did. And like now finally getting to create content for a church and really start proclaiming the gospel through what you love. Is that like exciting for you? Like what's your take on that,
Like Well, I guess, like, in what I do, because, like, you say proclaiming the gospel through what you do, and, like, what you do being, like, in this case, making videos. Like, I haven't technically, like, made any videos that, like, proclaim the gospel directly, but, like, it sort of ties back into what we were talking about at the beginning with, like, you know, just, like,
and everything you do it to the glory of God.
Exactly. Like, the big video that I made was, at least this past year, was the log video, which we can, if we want to, but B Company, every culmination we have a big log that the freshmen carry, and it eventually turns into the whole outfit carrying this log, and it's like 1,300 pounds, heavy thing, but
BCO,
well, yeah, like
had to be extra.
It was huge. Like they chopped down like a log that was like 2,600, and we were like, well, they realized immediately. They were like, this is too heavy. So they had to cut it in half lengthwise. That took them like.
They couldn't just get another log.
No, because they had already like went and brought it back and whatnot. So like they'd have to chop down like a whole other tree or something.
How long would that take though?
Well, I don't know.
Longer than cutting the other log in half lengthwise? Like, because even, like, if it takes longer, you're, like, driving in the truck, you just dump it somewhere, you find it, like, I mean, there's already so many trees dying.
We could, excuse me.
We probably could have done it.
Probably could have found a new one, but they wanted this one. Like,
wouldn't have been a great video.
Go ask the class of 21. I don't know. So, like, yeah.
It's the Aggie way.
Yeah,
make things 10 times smarter.
10 times harder than they have to be, yeah.
But more entertaining.
Oh, yeah, way more entertaining. So...
Thanks, Jimbo.
Jimbo, LSU, we'll get there. So, the morning of culmination, which is like when the freshmen, having gone through, like, a whole semester of being a fish, they earn their Corps brass and become official members of the Corps Cadets. The morning of that ceremony, which is like a 2.5 hour to 3 hour, just like...
Storefest?
PT fest, yeah, it's brutal. Like,
opposite of snoring. Calisthenics.
Yeah. It's not like a ceremony. It's like we go on a 3 mile run.
Like a Spartan race.
Yeah, 3 mile run out to Research Park.
Oh gosh.
Do a bunch of push-ups, sit-ups, flutter kicks, bunch of different exercises. It's crazy. And then it was also like 40 degrees and raining.
That's the core.
Yeah, and so
it's tradition, everybody.
The morning of, we needed to get this log out there so that it'd be ready. So it was at this guy Braden Yasko's house, who lives like 10 minutes away from campus, maybe. And then so we had to get it on the trailer, then get it out there and put it behind this big old bush that is out there that we use to conceal the log until it's ready to be used, you know. And so
does it need to be hidden?
Yeah, because like if the fish just see the log there the whole time, they're gonna be like, I bet we're gonna like freaking pick that up. Like what we do is we like,
it's like a shock factor.
We do a bunch of PT, then we tell them to like, you know,
oh, you're done.
Like
Psych.
Like we give them that impression. It's like it's like close your eyes and like put your hands on the shoulders of the bunny.
They think they're getting their brass,
and like we walk them over, and then they're like, okay, like everyone turn this way, like hold out your hand. And like what they did to us, my fish here, they made us hold out our hand, and we hadn't eaten yet that day because back in my day, like we didn't get breakfast. Yeah, in old army, we didn't get breakfast before culmination, and so I was starving. And so they put something in our hand, and they're like, "Open your eyes," and you look, and it's a piece of Captain Crunch cereal, and it's just like, all right. But like I was honestly grateful because I was just so hungry. I was like, but
wasn't Lucky Charms?
No.
Rip. So unlucky.
So unlucky. Yeah. It was Captain Crunch. It was Captain Crunch. Yeah, I'll never forget. But and then they say, all right, turn around, and everyone turns around, and then at your feet is the biggest log you've ever seen in your entire life. Because earlier that week we teach the fish how to do log PT with like a skinny like telephone pole.
Okay.
Skinny telephone pole sized log.
Right.
Whereas this log
is that like 7-8 inches in diameter versus like 24.
And it's heavy.
Yeah.
Those logs are, but like. You teach them like halfway up, and then like 1, 2, all the way up, and then like
shoulder it.
Yeah, if you need a heave, so I need a heave, then ready, 1, 2, heave, and then all that nonsense.
What does heaving do? Mm-hmm. What does heaving do?
It's like if it's caught on your shoulder in a weird way.
Oh.
You need to tell everyone so that everyone can like push the log up. You can adjust your shoulder and fix it.
You can't just like duck under and come back up.
It's so heavy.
Really?
It's so heavy. Like you could try, but then
So, like, one
but everyone is like on the log, and so like the interval is like you are like right up against the next person.
Okay.
Yeah, because
so
it's
there's no
so
room
heavy.
to
You
move.
need
Okay.
you need so many people to hold it. So like if you
Gotcha.
bend down, you're gonna trip someone.
So there's no space, is what it is.
Yeah,
You can
there's
do the
no
weight,
space.
but not the space. Okay.
And so like if you trip someone, then you're in trouble. Because then and then like the 1,300
You
pound
get
log.
ridden the next 3 miles back to campus, and
Yeah, in an ambulance. Yeah, like so we're very, very careful. So we teach them all that. But then, so we do the whole thing. We're like, there's a log here. You have to carry it. And then, like, the upperclassmen are always, like, right there, like, making sure, like, everyone's safe. Is like, is your back okay? Like, really, do you need a replacement? Yeah, it's so cool. Because, like, especially as a fish, when you see your sophomores who have been, like, yelling at you the whole time, like, step in and be like, do you need a replacement? And you're like, and they're just like, move, and they take the log for you.
Legit
You're just
carry
like,
your cross, bro.
yeah, it's like
Simon of Cyrene, he's coming up, he's like, I got you, Jesus.
Yeah, it's like,
well, he got dragged into it, so
but
it wasn't like that, but
as if he had done that, like, but it's like the sophomores like, oh my gosh, they care about me, and I'm like, it's
back on the log.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you want to get back on it because, like, all your buddies are there. And it's like, I don't want to be here not doing anything while they're all, like, freaking working hard. And so you take the time you need and then get back on, and it's a whole outfit effort, So it's not just us, like, pick up that log and then, like, sitting down and, like, washing them. No, like,
Get some popcorn out.
It's very active, like, and so, we need to get this log out there. So we drove it out there on this trailer and then put it down. Well, it was on this trailer and we needed to get it off, and it was raining, like I said.
No, so you all had to lift it. I remember this.
Well, the way it worked was we had 2 trucks out there.
Yeah.
And
did you, like, back them into each other,
neither
like,
of
cheek
them
to
had
cheek?
4-wheel drive. So we had these 2 trucks, and it was so muddy out there. And so Jackson Wedlick tied a chain. He's one of my buddies. Tied a chain around the log, and then you had Corbin Vogus's truck, the guy who drove the truck with the trailer.
Right.
Truck, trailer, then
Other truck.
log on the trailer, chain connected to Jackson's truck, and their plan was to drive outward like that. And it worked. Except for the fact that Corbin's truck got stuck in the mud. Jackson's almost got stuck in the mud, but he was able to back up and then get the log off. But then his got stuck in the mud later. But Corbin's truck was, like, real bad because he had the trailer weighing it down and all.
Oh, jeez.
And so we had to like, get the trailer off of it, and then we had to, like, everyone got on the trailer and push the truck to get out of that hole because he kept revving his freaking wheels and digging it deeper, and we were like, stop! But, like,
The things you do for your fish, bro.
yeah, seriously. We got him out, and then he got stuck again, and then we had to go push again, and then we had to get Jackson's truck out, and it was just this whole thing. But
Make some good video.
yeah, like, the entire time, because, like, they woke me up that morning. They're like, hey, like, you need to come help with the log because it's not where it needs to be, and everyone's helping. And I was like, all right, sure. And so I ran out. But, like, there were so many people working on it already that, like, everywhere I would, like, try to jump in, there was already someone there. And so I was like, I'll just document this. And so I, like, pulled out my phone and took a video. And
They were,
I
like,
got,
chill
like,
with it, too. They were like,
oh, yeah. Well, at least, like, for the longest time. Well, the sophomores loved it because they're all like, yeah. Like,
I'm on it, yeah.
Like, the people, like, Jackson and Corbin, who were, like, running on maybe 1 hour of sleep. B, were in charge of the entire operation of, like, getting
so
the log
it's
there.
on them.
Yeah, like, like, the responsibility's really on their head, Like, they were not crazy happy about it, but
they went along
at least
with
in
it.
the moment. Yeah, they let me do it for a while, and then, like, later, and it, like, in the video, you can see, like, Jackson Woodland, like, calls me out, and, like, I'm like, okay, and so I have to stop recording and, like, help push, and I did, but and then I kept recording later, but
Nice.
I got, like, 30 minutes of footage, and it was hysterical. Just watching all of the sophomores, like, and just my buddies, like, watching everyone interact, because, like, we all know each other so well,
Yeah.
and so we're all, like, really comfortable, and we have, like, a bunch of inside jokes going the entire time, and so I was able to make a 24-minute video where I would, like, take, like, things that certain people would say or do and, like, sort of emphasize them by, like, adding like the words on the screen sort of to like really make that like
Gotcha.
when you just sort of hear it, you're like, like you hear what they say and it's funny, but like when it's emphasized by like the words that they're saying popping up on the
just
screen,
like subtitles.
it really makes it's like subtitles. It makes it pop out, and you're like, oh my gosh, and like.
Are you a subtitles guy? Or no subtitles guy?
Like watching like Netflix, it depends.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah. But sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. Because like
Same
I find
here.
that I watch the subtitles, the entire time, and I'm like, I'm just reading. What? I don't need to watch it. But yeah. But like, and I sort of mess around and like make the words pop up in a creative way, not just like at the base, but like like we can have a thing pop up and it'll have an example or something, and I can show you afterward. But
gotcha.
yeah, and so it turned into this 24-minute video that was just hysterical, and it took forever to make.
Right.
I was working on it nonstop for a long time, but I finally finished it and showed it to the sophomore class, and they love it. Like they still watch it like over and over and over again, and like I can hear them quoting it all the time, and I'm like, dude, and like I remember like when I finally finished it and like showed it to them, they were all like so just like, thank you so much, like we can't believe, and it was like doing something so nice, like I love doing it, but it was also something that was like so nice for them, and so they got to appreciate it, and they got to see like the love and care that went into the video, and so it's like I feel like that is sort of getting back to the point of this whole thing, is how I can like sort of emphasize Christ and the gospel through what I do, is like
serving
and making people look cementing good. And like I guess like really, what's the word I'm looking for, like
concretizing,
not like
manifesting,
not spicing up, but like just preserving these memories, like, because that was a memorable experience, like getting all those trucks out of the mud over and over and over again, and like getting this log out there, and then like getting,
and that's different from like a 30-second like Insta story or like something you see on Snap. It's like, oh gosh, this is what they were up to this weekend. It's like, no, you got this professional documentation, and it's like it's hysterical. It's
literally like I call it Log Hogs 2, the logging, and I call it did I call it a documentary? I called it a short film by Austin Parkman, or an Austin Parkman short film. Maybe I called it a documentary. Either way, because that's what it is. It's a 24-minute movie, and it's like it's a home movie. Yeah. It's not like a Snap story. It's not like someone looks at it on Instagram and they're like, oh, that's cool, that's funny, It's like it's something that you can like sit down and like for 24 minutes like relive. For the most part, this crazy event, this crazy like thing that happened, that like so much funny stuff happened during it, and like you get to like, and I'm thinking like later on down the line when we're all like 10 years out of college, 20 years out of college, like, because I remember my
dad going to alumni lunches, and,
my dad will still bring up old photos from back when he was in college and show me and be like, look at this, and I'm like, dude, that's so cool, and like so like now we all have this movie that like
can be
we can look at and like see and just remember the characters who are around us, and like the different like Daniel Deanna and Madden Barham doing like Australian accents, talking about their two buddies who were off in the distance like creating this mud pit that we were going to use during the thing, and like they were talking about him like Steve Irwin, right? Goodness,
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Steve Irwin. But I almost said Urkel, which is why I was like, wait a minute.
Hello, everybody.
But they're talking like Steve Irwin, like nature documentary, Crocodile Hunter, about their, like, look over there, like 2 street fighting pissheads over there, like freaking, but.
A pisshead is a sophomore.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to get into that. But, and like just all of the shenanigans that they were doing, and then like seeing Corbin, like, and just how done he was with the situation, and like being able to remember.
Poor Corbin.
Yeah, I know. But like in the looking back on it, it's like, hilarious because it's like, oh my gosh, he's like so done with everyone just joking around while he's trying to, and it like, it brings you back to like, that's how it was, dude. And like I just I love it, and I love that I can like create that and share it with these guys, and that they can really appreciate it. And
that's so amazing to me, and I think you'll see where I'm going with this pretty quickly. And that's exactly what I think about when, for one, I think about this and what we're doing right now, just trying to preserve memories and things like that, record awesome conversations, see what God's doing. But also, I feel like that's literally the Gospels, like as they're written in the New Testament, or really like, I mean, the Old Testament as well. Like the original reason, the only reason why people would have historical records is like, this is something memorable. This is something, I mean, God did, especially with like Moses and like Sinai and like, you know, the commandments and all that stuff. It's like something amazing happened. God did something amazing. People were affected. Their lives were changed. They'd never seen anything like it before. This has to be remembered. And so they make these rituals, they make these feasts and these offerings and these days that, you know, to memorialize it, because it was something great and it was something special that brought the community together, that brought a sense of peace, a sense of joy. And especially in the New Testament, I mean, that is, I mean, the gospel according to Mark, the gospel according to like Luke and John and Matthew and like all of Acts and stuff like it's a recording in a different medium. You know, it's like just straight on papyrus scrolls or whatever they had in the day. It's like something amazing happened and we are blessed because of it, and we want to enjoy that onward towards eternity. And we never want to forget this. We never want to forget what Christ did for us. We never want to forget his love, his sacrifice, his death and his resurrection, that death has been defeated, like victory has been won. And like that mentality I see so much like just in you, in like creating these memories, but also just like editing and doing anything in general, because you like always have this like spirit of excellence about you where you want to get the most pristine account, like the Gospel of Luke. I'll tell you, that's like my favorite gospel, because like Luke like was a physician and he was like super orderly, and the introduction to the Gospel of Luke is like, in order that you may have like an accurate account, O Theophilus, which just means like a lover of God. I don't know if it's like a real person or not. It's like, in order that you may have an accurate account concerning the things that like have happened and that like have been among us, that we have like seen and heard, because like many have tried to tell the story, but I'm going to investigate this further. That's why Luke has like the most extensive gospel. He goes into like, you know, John the Baptist's birth and Elizabeth, and you know how Zacharias, I think, is it Zacharias? Might mess that up. Zachariah, not Zachariah, the father of John. Gosh, I feel bad that I'm gonna mess that up. John the Baptist's father got like the lips shut up with the angel because he told him that he was gonna, like, this is a lot of detail that like, you know, like Mark didn't quite hit on, like John didn't quite hit on, but like Luke, you have that like super orderly and extensive account of the gospel, because he's like, I don't want to miss a beat. I don't want to miss a thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like that. And I feel like that's you. That's like so you. And I love that, because you are so meticulous in everything that you do, and you really don't want to miss a beat. And if there's something that like is off a little bit, like it'll bug you, and it's like frustrating to see that, because I'm like, okay, just like let it go a little bit, Austin. But like it's amazing how much your spirit of excellence like just drives you to make these pristine memories, but also again just like to proclaim the gospel, like doing everything you do for the glory of God, and like getting to like see your passion in that as well. It's like, oh my gosh, not only are you good at this, not only is it a reflection of what literally everybody's done in the past with like recording the gospel, recording God's story, it's like you love it. You absolutely love it. And like, I'm like, just getting to see that for you, like helps. I mean, was part of the reason, like I was like this, I was like, sorry, lost words there. Part of the reason I wanted to start everything we're doing here, it was like, man, I want to see this level of passion in everybody. Yeah. You know, because I know people have it with something. Like everybody's got a passion. Everybody's got a thing that their face lights up when they start talking about it. And a lot of us share that common passion of Christ and of Jesus, and we can talk about him for like hours and days. But like everyone also has this, you know, avenue, this vocation where Christ shows up, and there's just these different facets of Christ that we get to see through the passions and experiences that you have, and those are so encouraging, so empowering to all of us, really. And I'm so glad that like I get to hear that from you, you know, and I've gotten to hear it a couple times, really, like in the bits and pieces, but like just literally that whole orderly account, maybe not so orderly account of like taking a log, you know, and like having fish here, and like, you know, the fact that that's so memorable to you, but that like, even as you're telling me, people listening might not be able to see, like your face lights up, your voice goes up, and like you're just like, everything is so joyous and your heart is swelling. And I love getting to see that in you. And that's the reason like why we're here, is just to build each other and like encourage one another, you know? I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to say on that, and just like how you've kind of felt, I mean, about maybe like more of the logging, maybe like just really how in a spirit of excellence you kind of, I mean, maybe with we were talking earlier about the coaching with the directing of the videos and the B-roll for Concordia and stuff like that, how maybe you just have this different spirit about you because of your knowledge of the gospel and what Christ has called you to, if that makes sense. Like, how does knowing Christ change the way you go about doing what you do? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. It sort of stuck out to me when you said you like let little things, I guess, especially like in video.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like,
well,
yeah.
No. Like I'm glad that you said it, because like it does. Like yeah. And it's like it's one of those things that like even from making like the videos that I made back in like high school for that class, like Have I shown you the Tenacious D video?
You
I
did.
did. Like,
yeah, you did.
I made a video for a music video for Tenacious D's tribute, and it is awesome. Like, I love it. I still love it. Like, it's not that great, but like,
but you take
it's
such pride
awesome.
in the
I'm like knowing like. I look at it and I remember what it took to make that video, like each part of that video happened, and I'm like, that took like, this part took so much work, this part just happened naturally. Like, I remember making it and like the joy that came in making it. But like, getting back on the point, like little things, like one of the things that Ryan Hall always told me, like when you're making something, like it's sort of weird, like your goal as a video maker, video editor, filmmaker, whatever you want to call it,
right,
is to not be noticed.
Gotcha.
Like, because like you're making this project, and at no time, and it's the same
Nothing
thing
should
as
be
like
distracting.
Yeah, it's the same thing as when I'm working camera up in the booth. Like if Pastor Tucker's running around and I completely lose him on the screen,
right?
People are gonna be like, where is he on the? What's going on
Where's
in the booth?
Where's the tech guy doing?
Like, what's wrong with the cameraman? Like, is he having like freaking
Taco Cabana up there?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and all of a sudden their attention's completely gone. They're not listening to the message, And so that's the whole deal. Like it's
a stumbling block, bro.
Yeah, you're creating this, like when you're editing a video, you're creating this story, this account message, account message, and
this gospel.
Yeah, exactly. And in it, like if anything is like a little bit off, like at least as you watch it, if you notice something, you're like, people are gonna notice that too. Right. If it's like a hiccup or like a weird noise that happens like somewhere off screen, people are gonna be like, what was that? Why is that there? So like you get rid of it. And that's one of the things that I love, and like talking about how like anything that like I sort of like dream up in my head or like want to make happen, I can make happen. That's the beauty of Final Cut.
Is to play God a little bit.
yeah, a little bit. Like you can, like with enough time with enough like just messing with it, with enough practice and enough like poking around with like different options, like you can make whatever you want to happen in that thing. You can make like, I don't know, a picture pop up on the screen next to someone's head or something, like at the exact right moment, stuff like that. And like to the point where like if it's a little bit early or a little bit late, it looks weird. So you want it at that exact right moment. You can make it at that exact right moment. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so stuff like that, being that meticulous, is just to the point, like where at least in terms of making the logging, like I was that meticulous because I wanted it to be like perfect. I wanted it to be like that, like account, so you could relive it, not relive it and be like, wait a second, what does that mean? Like have like that weird
attention to detail.
Yeah, exactly, attention to detail, so that it's like it's seamless, and from beginning to end, you're like in it, and it's hilarious, and you're focused on like, oh my gosh, like Daniel Deanda, like what a guy, like as opposed to like, that's weird how it's sort of like, why did it cut off in the middle of what he was talking about, like something like that. And so and because it's like, especially like, because all of the sophomores, especially when I started like showing them bits and pieces of it, they kept asking about it,
Yeah.
They're like, "Are you finished with it yet? Can we see it?" And I'm
Got
like, wait, it's not ready yet. Because I'm like...
Can't rush perfection,
exactly.
baby.
I'm like, I want it to be as good as possible for them as it...
Right. Because you want to give it to them. It's a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift. And I want it to be like the best that I can make it.
Right.
Because, like...
You want to honor them.
I want to honor them, yeah.
That's so
because, I view those guys, like the sophomore class, my buddies, the
so
fish
highly,
class,
yeah.
so highly, and I view them like just as a complete blessing, from the Lord. Because there's so many like outfits in the Corps, like LOL, don't mean to talk trash or whatever, but where like
there's a special culture about Bico
yeah,
and about the band.
Yes, yeah, like they're
and it does revolve around that attention to detail because that's not just you, and I think, without the Corps, you already have that kind of ingrained in you, just
in
the way you go
places,
about.
Yeah.
Because even, with basketball, like we'll dive into that little tangent a little bit, like the way, like you're very technical with anything you do, and I haven't gotten to like play with you. I've gotten to watch you play a little bit of tennis, but I played like table tennis with you. I played basketball with you, and like the level of like self-criticism that you have in terms of like technique and like the level of accountability that you hold yourself to is like ridiculously high, but also inspiring because like you'll be talking about like your legs or the sweep and sway or like the shoulder and like how loose it is, and like you're a very good coach in that sense because you just have an eye for it and you know what could be better at every single time, and like communicating that you've gotten better. Not that you were ever like bad at it, but like you've learned, especially through the Corps, like how to be an effective encourager and how to hold people accountable in that way. So, it's really cool to watch.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was so nice. But
No, because, it was so amazing how you were talking about, like honoring the people and like just having this, attention to detail with the creation and stuff like that. And this might be a bit of a regurgitation for you and I, because like this was a big part of like my summer and like things that I was thinking about. Yeah. But I can't help but think about the attention to detail that God paid to us and the way that we were built and designed. I was talking to somebody really last night, really, a Bible study, and we were talking about like just the complexity of the body.
Oh, yeah.
And like how just if a protein was misaligned or like there was certain like something in like the nanometers, was off about like our structure, then like we couldn't hold together.
Yeah.
Like we would not be what we are today. Our bodies are so complex, like nobody fully understands how it works. Like scientists, biologists are trying to figure it out like as we speak. But it's amazing to think, to even imagine that there is someone who is so much bigger than us, so much stronger than us, who knows so much more than us, that he could organize each of us in such a complex way that we reflect his image, but that we also are so unique and so different and such individuals that he has coded variation into our DNA.
Yeah.
Like he has coded individuality, he has coded just like specificity, like someone who may be like tall or a little bit muscular or a little bit skinny or a little bit like thicker or wider. It's like there is so much beauty in the difference. And he's saying, look, there is not one cookie cutter standard for beauty, especially the way that I have made every single person. Like I do not make mistakes, and that was so big for me. Like the fact that like, while I can nitpick myself in the mirror, emotionally, physically, mentally, and like, again, just like have that attention to detail that turns into like an obsession in a way. God looked at me when he formed me before I was like even conceived, and he said, this is good. I've fallen short of that standard much since, but it's like, initially when God forms any of us, he's like, this is good. And more than that, it is very good. And like, you can kind of see that vaguely represented in scripture as well, because you have, and I'd say it's really even in the boring parts of scripture, the boring quote unquote parts of scripture that like the law, but like all the all the sacrifices, all the offerings, all the building of the tabernacle and the instructions, and just like literally the meticulous detail that Moses had to have, that Solomon had to have, all these instructions from God that seem almost arbitrary, because it's like, why does this matter? But it's like, if God cares about this so much and he tells me about it, I'm going to write this down. I'm not going to miss a beat. I don't want to miss a thing, because he has given me instruction and he has planted this vision of beauty, of perfection in my mind, and I want to be as faithful to that vision as humanly possible. And again, like, I've fallen short, we fall short.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing to see that, like, at least from like the top down, God has this vision for us, and that vision is so much greater than we can even imagine or even ask for, you know, because we kind of sell ourselves short a lot of the time, and we say like, oh, if I could just gain 20 pounds. For me, a lot of times I'm thinking, man, if I could just get like 20-inch biceps, then I'd be like dope. Then I'd be like the image of strength, the image of like, you know, like fortitude and endurance and like all that stuff. But it's like, I feel like God's looking at me and saying like, bro, if you were supposed to have 20-inch biceps, I would have given them to you. Yeah. Like, if you were supposed to be 6'2", I would have made you 6'2".
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
Sorry, but 5'10" and under life right here.
5'5.5", baby. Yeah.
Well, bro, you still got a wicked 3, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, freaking.
From the corner, too.
Don't leave me open. Yeah.
Don't leave me.
But, yes,
well, no,
yeah. If we're supposed to be 6'2", then we would have been 6'2". But go on.
But just that whole thing of attention to detail, and I know that's reflected so much in what you do, but also kind of stemming from that, like, this is good mentality. It's like the pride in the creation, and I'm guessing for you, like, just hearing you talk from it, I can hear that pride. I can hear that excitement and that passion in, you know, you've made something good, and you know you've done something well. And I just imagine God when he was like making literally all of creation, you know, and like however you think he did that and whatever time span you think he did that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like he sits back for a day and he's like just enjoying it on the Sabbath. And he's resting. And I imagine like while he's resting, it's like, I wouldn't be able to keep my eyes closed. Like, you can lay back and you can be like, this is good. This is very good. And that's always thinking to himself for like a straight day, whatever you think that means, is like, everything that I've done is amazing, you know. And I think we get a fraction of that, because I know that feeling a little bit too, like either writing something good, coming up with like, you know, a paper or a project, and you invest time into something, or like with the craft, like with tennis for me, with fitness and lifting, or basketball a little bit, thanks to you. It's so amazing to look back on progress and look at this creation that has taken time and has taken effort and has taken dedication and an attention to detail. And it blows my mind how much, and it's humbling in a way to see how little I've achieved in the grand scheme of things. You know, like I've increased my bench by such and such, or my deadlift, or like my serve, whatever. And it's like, there's tremendous progress depending on the scale you use, but like, I've always had to start with something. And God is the only one who can create from nothing. And he created everything from nothing in 7 days, whatever you think that means. Yeah. Like, what? And not only did he do that in a very brief span of time, as the Bible accounts it or records it, but like, he did it and it was very good. It was the best it's ever been. Yeah. You know, and everything since that, as time has gone on, you know, like entropy, or however the science works out, it's like we've kind of been decaying. But even as we decay, it's like God's glory is still popping out of the abyss. Like, here's freaking Roger Federer. Here's LeBron James. Yeah. Here's, you know, here's Drake. Here's Kendrick Lamar. Here's all these artists. Here's Beyonce. Here's all of these people who have all of these talents. Here's physicists. Here's mathematicians. Here's teachers. Here's mothers and fathers and pastors and like amazing speakers. Like, here's the apostles and Moses and the fathers and stuff like that. Like, everything. Like, every time we see a bit of talent and we see a bit of greatness, I feel like we're seeing a bit of God. Yeah. You know, and especially in that, you know, aspect of creativity as well. We talked about this a little bit the first time we tried this, but I'm going to say it again because it's like, just has hit me a lot. I tend to think of humans as like selfish, prideful, and creative. You know, those three things: selfish, prideful, and creative. But like, God shows up when we pursue creativity at the expense of selfishness and pride. Yeah. You know, and that's exactly what you're doing when you're making that video, when you're making the logging, like, however, you know, just kind of free spirit it is, and like however much you're joking around with it, it's like there's creativity at the expense of selfishness and pride, because you're doing it for other people. You're doing it for the sake of just glorifying them, of making this memory, of recording and accounting something beautiful that God made happen. Yeah. And there's nothing about you, and you're completely behind the scenes. And that's something, especially about film and about editing film. It's like you are never. I mean, you can be seen if you like do it all yourself and stuff. But like, I mean, you are practically never seen, but you are still the agent that gets to put all of things together and that gets to hold things all together. I mean, look at Colossians 1 or 3. A by thing like nothing was made by him. That is, gosh, I messed that up so hard. It was like. Everything that has been made by him, and nothing has been made that was not made. Something along those lines. And in him, all things hold together. I am sorry, Bible. I totally I could have
we should
looked
get
that
one.
up.
And just have it right there.
I can look it up real quick, and I'm definitely gonna have to because I botched that. I'm sorry, Jesus.
I mean that last attempt
iteration sounded closer.
Pretty on the ball at least
with the spirit of the Scripture.
Yeah.
There you go. Preeminence of Christ. Here we go. Colossians 1, 15 through 17, in case nobody looked it up and corrected me already. Yeah. Christ, he is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. So you already have that bit of like, okay, God is invisible, but he's been creating and he's been holding everything together. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All the people that we see glamorize, the celebrities, the politicians, the athletes, and whoever that is good at what they do. There is someone who is putting that spotlight on them. For one, it's Christ. For one, it's God. But also the people who have a craft like yours and can make film and video and stuff like that. So like, thrones, rulers, authorities, all things were created through him, for the purpose of the gospel, which was, we were like talking about that earlier. And then he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. There was just this vision at the beginning of creation that like you talking about in Final Cut, like every single bit to the frame, you can like have a plan for. Like you might not necessarily have a plan for every single thing, like something unique about it, but you have that possibility and that potential from the very beginning to do limitless things. God is a limitless God, bro. Frickin' Timothy Atik, shout out to him. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, and everything he might be preeminent. I'm like, bro, it's scripture, bro. Yeah. And you get to like reflect that. You get to bear Christ's image by reflecting his image, by creating the way he creates, bro. You get to do that. Isn't that awesome?
It's so awesome.
It's so cool.
Oh, wow. That was a really, really good breakdown of the whole thing.
Bro, Scripture makes it easy. Thanks, Scripture. Thank you, Jesus. I guess, thank you also, Paul. Paul wrote Colossians.
Yeah.
Yeah. General Electric Power Company.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Oh, my God.
Dude.
But yeah, it's just, that's what I love. It's just, and I mean, it's more than just like making the videos, like especially just as chaplain, like when I see like, a freshman in the hallway, just like,
chilling.
Yeah.
Being lonesome.
Well, like, walking back and forth up the hallway or whatever it is they do.
These fish.
Yeah. Like
swimming in my pond.
Just saying hi and like asking them how their day's going and all that. And like, just how you treat the underclassmen and I mean my buddies and upperclassmen alike, like just treating them, and honoring them in how you treat them, like as God's creation. Because it's like, especially like the fish, because it's like as a fish, like you have to like walk on the one side of the hallway and like you have to do all that fish stuff, but like and you can like, if you really like, I mean I've seen people do it, like they let it get into their head and they're like, like I feel like I'm just being undermined in everything that I'm doing, and it's like
help.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
I'm being oppressed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my gosh. But
sorry, fish.
Yeah, like, but there's purpose behind it, obviously.
Right.
But like,
Absolutely.
like it's easy to like let yourself fall into the trap of feeling like that sometimes, which is why me, like as a chaplain, like I remember my fish year, and I'm like,
it's rough, bro.
Yeah, like it can be.
I remember
rough,
talking about it with you all fish year, bro.
Oh yeah.
And it was like bro,
it's nuts.
It
so
is nuts.
Like I just do my best to make sure that like I treat them, like humans, and I also like, I guess for the sake of like humor and like getting them like
loosen up a
I'll
little
take
bit.
Advantage of the goofiness that is the choir. And like like
you'll spoof it.
Yeah, I'll spoof it, exactly. Like if they're like walking down the hallway, like if a fish is walking down their side of the hallway and an upperclassman is like there in the way, they have to like chop their feet until the upperclassman moves, and then they can keep going. And so, like, if I know that they're going, like, I don't know, out to eat or something, like, I'll just, like, stand there and, like, make them chop their feet, and I'll be like, what are you doing? And then, you know, because I obviously know what they're doing, but I'll just act like I don't for, like, a couple, like, seconds. Like, I never like, make it go
just
too
just
long.
hold it a little bit.
Just hold it like a little bit for like while it's like sort of funny, and they'll like sort of like crack a smile while they chop their feet, and they're like, stop it. Like, and then I'll like get out of their way and be like, go, like do it.
But I'll tell you what, bro, they're gonna remember that, and as soon as they're a white belt, they're gonna do the
same exactly
thing. They're gonna do the same exact thing.
That's the kind of stuff that like the white belts who I loved would like do to me when I was a bitch, because it's just like they know that like you can't. Like, as if, according to the rules, like, you can't do anything about it. And it's like,
rules.
Because, like, in any other circumstance, you could just move around them. Like, easy. Like, but it's like, because of the core, and it's like, the most unique experience, like, in the world. Like, you're in a situation where, like, you just can't.
Yeah.
Like, you can physically just walk around them, but, like, because of, like, the rules of the organization that you're in, you have to, like, just sit there. And it's like, and like in the moment you're just thinking like, man, this is really dumb. Like, because it's like I could just walk around, but like I have to stay on my side of the hallway, and it's like,
it's me in college in general.
Like it's just like I don't know, like it's just like showing how, I guess, goofy, making
well, and I think that's the same it goes for just about any subculture, like co-culture or whatever you want to call it. It's like it's on the inside, you get to make the jokes, and that's the definition of an inside joke. It's like you understand how ridiculous things are. I mean, I think about stuff with like, I mean, Aggies in general. Like, have you seen like the Aggie memes page? And it gets a little far sometimes, but it's hilarious, and it wouldn't be hilarious if it was a bunch of people from Austin making those memes, because they would take it too far all the time. And just it takes being in the group, you know, and that's not always a bad thing. Like, I mean, groups are a great thing, especially when there's like the family and the camaraderie, and Christ is never a bad idea. It's like not always like super like possible, like at least like at the legislative level, you know, because you've got like all the bureaucracy that actually goes on with running it like a professional organization. They don't like having, you know, organized religion be a part of that, but like at least within you and within your, you know, local sphere of influence, kind of like, again, like as you're saying, like living, breathing, walking and talking about Jesus. It's so cool to see, bro. I know. But I know you love movies as well, and we've gotten to watch a couple of movies. You've showed me specifically, No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men.
Right, and we're not going to rant about that movie, but the thing that makes me think about that, I know you wanted to grab the mic and just go off for 2 hours, and we could, but you showed me a bunch of videos about, along the similar lines of like, here's something that if you were paying attention, you could notice. And all these different theories, because the Coen brothers are pretty out there in terms of like what they're trying to do artistically. But there is something about movies, and it's telling a story, and the symbol that gets used in story, and all these archetypes, and I can't help but think how much the Christ figure comes up, and how much, maybe not specifically in Old Country, but how the Christ figure, the hero figure, is, you know, either reflected and like try to like recreate it in a way, like they try to recreate the Christ figure, or they try to go against that traditional narrative and make like the anti-hero, the Deadpools and the Batmans of the world, you know what I'm saying? I was wondering if you had like any specific thoughts on like just like geeking out on movies and like all the little things that goes on within that. We can talk about No Country if you want.
Well, I mean, like, I guess like it's very similarly along the lines of making videos and making like short movies. Like it's seeing just people who have absolutely mastered the art of storytelling through that medium, and like seeing the lengths that they go to perfect the story. Like what's a good example? Like The Ballad of Buster Scruggs was the last movie that we watched together.
Yes, we did.
Like, oh my gosh, the amount of detail in that movie is insane. Like, The one thing that always gets me in terms of like details to the point where it's like almost unnecessary is like the deal where like he's in that one like bar scene, and this is like the first story where it's just Buster, and like it's the first deal where he runs into anyone else,
right?
And it's like sort of it's the scene that sort of sets him up as like the hero, as like the crazy like gunslinger who's just so much better and faster than everyone else, like the classic cowboy tales.
Super articulate.
Yeah. My pleasant demeanor fool you. Yeah, like freaking. But the deal where he like brings the gun behind his back and like shoots the dude who's like reaching for the rifle to try to take him out, and like the bullet like hits him, and you can see it like hits the wall, and you can see the light of day, the sunlight coming through the wall and through the dude's back, and it's like, I don't know if that's graphic. I'm sorry if like you're squeamish or something. But
it's the Coen brothers.
Yeah, it's like that level of detail, and like it's just it makes it like, especially because like with people like the Coen brothers and Tarantino, and Quentin Tarantino, and who's the other one I'm thinking of? I guess Christopher Nolan, like
the Prestige,
yeah, exactly. But like especially with stories, especially with Tarantino and whatnot, but like with stories that are so just like out of proportion, like ridiculous. Like, I mean, like what, like the Hateful Eight. It's like when you think about like how the real world works, it's like this could never happen. Like, there's no way. Like, I guess with like the Hateful Eight,
but since it is happening,
that like the amount of detail they go into to making stuff look either so
it's like hyper real.
Yeah, it's like hyper real. Or on the other hand, like it
just
could
wildly
be
fantastic,
so fantastic that like
you just know
you can't not suspend your disbelief. You know?
Yeah.
It's like it's so crazy that you're just like you can't.
You're like nah.
You can't not.
Well, because you're showing off the craft at that point.
Exactly, and so it's like, and just seeing that, and like just the way it gets, especially me, just like seeing stuff like that, like it's so out of the box creative, you know, and it's just. And it creates such an effective story and such a where it just hit. And it's like
vivid
you always know it's
yeah.
the little details that make those certain stories like hit home, like how real they can be. Like what the deal, like Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the third story, Meal Ticket with the dude with no arms and legs, like my name is Ozymandias, you know, like that guy, like, and when the dude buys if you haven't seen the movie, this is going to be confusing, but like there's this guy running around with a wagon, and it's like
it's a traveling showman.
It's a traveling showman, yeah.
Where there's like an orator with no arms or no legs, and this guy, Liam Neeson's character, is kind of silently profiting off of this traveling show with like pretty much a cripple. And then after a while, you kind of see the show steadily like declines in production, but all the while, like Liam Neeson's character had been really faithful to this guy.
Yeah,
and then
he would feed him, because obviously he couldn't feed himself because he had no arms and no legs. So he'd feed him, and like and that's where the detail comes in. They went through the detail of like, you know,
he would feed the chicken instead of him.
Well, like, but like the detail of like how much, at least at first, when he was profiting off of this guy, like the care that because like he would heat up his food, then go and like go across, the little campfire, and like to the guy who's like sitting there in his little thing, and he would like hold out the meat to him, and he'd like feed it to him, like put it in his mouth, because couldn't do it by himself, and if it was hot, he'd be like and he'd like
pull it back,
like he'd put up the plate, and he'd like spit it back onto the plate, and then he would wait until it cooled down a little bit, and then give it back to him, and like he went through, and like could you imagine, like
it's a meticulous scene,
meticulous, tedious, and like and then like even showing like obviously like at a certain frame to where you don't see anything like weird, I guess, but like they show him like sort of holding the little guy up so that he can like relieve himself, it's like that's like gross and weird, but like he went to the, and like,
but it's real. It shows you
it's real, and it shows you how much he like cares about that. He's willing to like go through that weird thing to like help that guy exist, but then slowly as he starts like losing profit off of this show, like you can see him sort of like take less care in preparing the food, and it's like little like 10-second like scenes,
clips and
like
jump cuts and
and then and like he starts to slowly treat him worse. Then he buys the chicken, which is like the chicken that can do math, and like people are like 11 take away 3, and the chicken like clicks on the 8, and everyone's like like. And so he buys this chicken instead, and then he starts making more money off the chicken, and so he starts feeding the chicken, and he feeds the chicken first, and like the scene where
that just hits you. It's a weird thing that like you wouldn't think. Okay, the guy's feeding a chicken. It's like you don't know why that hits you, but then you see it pans back to the man's face.
It shows the guy, the little the cripple guy,
and there's a look in his eye.
The way he looks at him, like. Because he's reciting these beautiful speeches, passages from the Bible. He recites the entire Declaration of Independence. He
that's his job.
Yeah, he's reciting like all of these incredible.
But he's silent.
And he's silent, just staring at him. And it's because because like the guy's like feeding this chicken, he can tell he's like, we're on the same level here.
Right.
Like, he's been placed on the same level as
he's chicken fodder,
mindless bird. Yeah. Like because it's like. It's not about the work that they put in. It's about the money that he's making. And that's when that character realizes it for the first time. And none of this that we just talked about is ever stated.
It's a very silent... Well, because it's the only voice you hear, I think, in the film, minus like a couple of grunts and like the drunken singing from Liam Neeson's character, like on one little clip, is the orations.
Pretty much, actually, yeah.
And it's only his orations, and the rest of it is like silent, and you're legit just having to watch and pay attention. And you're like, if you're not used to that, and that makes you, it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable because you can see the conflict, but you can't hear it.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, this isn't how the real world works, but it's also just gripping.
Yeah.
In a way, and I think we talked about this the first time too.
Yeah.
You talked about he recites scripture and all these things, and the Declaration of Independence, every single like jump cut, like as they're going through the towns, and like as it gets less and less profitable, he always ends with the Declaration of Independence. But like there's a good 2-minute bit where like it was a government by the people, for the people, shall not perish, like on the earth, something like, and that phrase kept getting repeated. And like after I got done with that little section of Buster Scruggs, I like had that ingrained in my mind. I was like, is this the American dream, quote unquote? Is this like the fool's pursuit of profit at the expense of, you know, the crippled or the less? Is it something about class? Is it like whatever? But like, because the Coen brothers, you don't know what's going on in the frickin', background. But I was like, this could be the most absolutely deep thing ever. But like people like the Coen brothers would never say anything about it. They'd be like,
maybe
you have, yeah, exactly. Like it's so ambiguous and it's open for interpretation. Where it's like, whereas God, I think about this to take it in a weird direction. It's like when he creates something and there's so much attention to detail, it's like not always, okay, I should clarify this. It's not always exactly clear to us what the purpose is. Should make that abundantly clear, but it's extremely clear to God what our purpose was. And like reaching back to Breakaway, like 4 or 5 nights ago, it was like, to know him and to make him known, you know? And when we do that really, really well, things tend to be good. You know, I'm not going to say like you will have trouble in the world and all of that stuff that kind of goes with it. But it's like we were created with this purpose kind of going first full circle, losing words here, with like creation being created, having all this attention to detail. It's like God wouldn't spend so much time making you if he wouldn't make you for something.
Yeah.
You know, and that something is at a base level to reflect his image. We're made in the image of God. And we just do that practically as we've been talking about, going about and living and breathing. But also just like really deliberately by proclaiming the fact that we are made in his image. And there's a certain responsibility to love one another and to treat one another as fellow image bearers, as people who also reflect this divine being, God, person, 3 persons, 1 head, blah, blah, blah. Like all that stuff. It's like we've got a mission, and you fulfill it extremely well. Like I'll continue to brag on you, and just in terms of like how faithful you witness, how faithfully and passionately like you do the things that you do. But I think a lot of times like we forget that, or we really like we strive to complicate it so many times. Because like my whole freshman year, I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm still kind of like, what am I gonna do? Like, what's my purpose? What's my vocation? I think is like what we're talking about a lot of times when we think of purpose. But like, again, TA said it beautifully Tuesday night, where it's like, look, know Christ, make him known. It's like, however you do that, that's up to you.
Yeah.
Like, there are going to be businessmen, there are going to be politicians, there are going to be lawyers and preachers and mothers and fathers and like husbands and wives, like all that stuff. But it's like, at the base level, we all share that same purpose of reflecting the image of Christ. And it's so cool to see how that is reflected just in your character, but also like in these movies as well. And that no matter where you look, you can't deny how integral the Christ figure is in our history, in civilization's history at this point. I mean, look what freaking year it is. Mm-hmm. It's 2019. 2019, what? Like years after Christ? Like, Anno Domini, like in the year of our Lord. I don't know if that's exactly what, but like,
it's the year of our Lord.
Yeah, something. And so it's like, bro, can't ignore it. Yeah. Can't ignore the boy forever. You know, he's just here, and he's here to stay.
Yeah. When I freak out about movies, it's always because like I see that's what really like makes me light up about it. Is like especially like. I've really gotten into the Coen Brothers lately. Like, oh my gosh, it's almost like to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, I need to slow down. But like, you can see it's like they are so good at what they do. It's like only God could create someone who is so good at doing this. You know, like who has the capacity to be able to tell a story like this. There's no way something that amazing happens by accident. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like, or by chance.
Yeah, only a God and only a loving God could create someone with that kind of passion to, or at least I guess with the Coen Brothers, it's two people. Like, whether they're a Christian or not, like, only God could create people who have that kind of passion. Like that, and could create people, who are capable of that, and then gift them with that passion, and then the means to carry it out, you know? And so, that's where I start to freak out, where I'm just like, oh my, this is so amazing, you know? Like, praise God that No Country for Old Men exists. Yeah. Which is sort of weird when you think about the content of No Country for Old Men, but like, hey.
Sugar, is that you?
Like, oh my gosh, Aunt. But like, like, it's so, like, that movie in particular will, like, the fact that we are able, I guess the Coen Brothers were able to create a movie that
makes such an impression,
grips you
exactly.
Like, and when you're in the moment of watching it for the first time, and you see like this guy who has the money. If you don't know the plot for No Country for Old Men, a guy finds money, and then a guy tries to get him back. So like
that's it.
The guy like it's more complicated than that, but that's the gist. And so like this guy who's holding on to the money, and you also get a little hint of like money is the root of all evil. Like he like can't sleep, he can't like rest anywhere because he's always on the run from And so like it's like you could just get rid of the money, but then he gets to the point where like he's like, honestly, like, I'll give you the money, and he's like, even if you gave him the money, he'd still come after you just because you like made him mad, and it's just like but like. But anyway, aside from all that, like in the moment of watching it, when you're like, especially that one scene where like he's in the motel room and like he hears like. You know the scene where he's like sitting on the bed and like he turns off the lamp and he's being super quiet and like he can see like the light
the
coming
door
through under the door, and you can see the 2 feet, like the shadows, and then he's like, and he's holding like the shotgun, and he's just like, because this is Llewellyn like in the room. You remember that scene? And then like Anton is coming in, right? And it's like the first time that he's ever been this close to him, you know? But he's on the other side of the door, and like he's sitting there, and then like the feet go away, and then all of a sudden all of the light goes away. Yeah. And you're just like, you're sitting there watching this movie, and you're just like, because it's silent. And like you're just waiting for something to happen, and you're just like, oh, and like the fact that like humans can create a movie that can like grab you like that and get you, because like when I was watching it, I was just like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my gosh, like the fact that like you can tell a story to that depth, that's where I freak out. It's like, thank God that like this existence is not just like all of us sitting here doing like, I don't know, engineering homework, you know? It's like there's
Yeah.
Not to rag on engineers. Like,
no.
what they do is
it's important. It's
but
important.
But like the fact that like we're able to like tell stories and
Right.
we're able to come up with fiction too. Like the fact that we're able to just like these authors like
That Cormac
Stephen
McCarthy,
King
yeah.
or Cormac McCarthy,
That he could write
who
No
wrote
Country.
No Country for Old
Yeah.
Men, the book, and freaking Blood
Blood
Meridian,
Meridian.
which
Did
I
you read
haven't
it?
read, which I need to.
Oh,
like,
me
yeah,
too.
see, you freak out about it. It's like
Bro.
the fact that we're able to tell stories. It's like that's where and tell stories that get people to freak out like that.
Yeah.
Is just like,
It's
dude, it's like it's so cool because like that's where I really like. I find God pulling me, and like like during a movie where I see something amazing, it's almost as if he's like tapping me on the shoulder, like see what I made? I made the person who made that. It's like, dude.
Yeah. Well, because it's like, I mean, the creation always reflects the creator.
Yeah,
and we
exactly.
just kind of extend it, another peg in terms of like, there's the movie, and the creator of the movie, is the director and the producers and everyone that goes into that. But then the creator of like literally everyone who went into that creation is Jesus.
Yep.
And that's like amazing. And even when you were talking about No Country, and I'm definitely gonna like start going further into that a little bit because there's a lot of Christian imagery that's played with. It's meant to deliberately like not attack the Christian imagery, but like to go along with the fact that we know what the Christ figure should look like. We know the classic Western and who the good guy should be and what should happen and how life should turn out for like Anton Chigurh and for the guy who gets the money and for the sheriff and stuff like that. And they completely just take your expectations and they smash them.
Yeah.
And
It's
they,
dope.
and they like, the Coen brothers especially are like known for like not giving their audiences, as was McCarthy to begin with. There's not any more satisfying ending to the book than there is to the movie.
No.
And I think that might have been part of why they chose that.
Honestly.
Because it is revisionist history and everything like that. But it's like they leave you kind of hanging, and they it's the start of a conversation. They don't pretend like they can end the conversation, which I love.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love, because there's a lot of times where we try we try to like end the conversation and we seal it all up with, and they lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
Or they blow up the Death Star for like the 14th time. Or like, sorry, but like
Sorry.
they got the implosion right this time, but like, I don't know. But it's like we think that we can wrap everything up into a ball, and like we think for whatever reason that we know how stuff is going to end, even with whatever 2 hours of film that we have, that we can seal the story with a nice little bow. It's like there's a story ahead of us that's still being made, that's still being crafted by the Lord of the universe, thankfully.
Yeah.
And he wants us to live in a story that is so much better than the one that we exist in now. And I love seeing like the fact that the end is ambiguous.
Yeah.
Which without the gospel is terrifying. And even with the gospel, there's doubt, and it still can be terrifying because you just don't like to think about it.
Yeah.
Because it is unknown. But I love how the Coen brothers especially take that fear and they just throw it in there. They don't pretend. They don't like act for a second like they can predict the ending or that they're in control of the end. And that's the whole bit. It's like,
Dude.
exactly with No Country, where it's like the coin flip and the chance and the fate and the destiny, and like how well you live up to your moral code might determine where you stand. It might not. And there's just so much ambiguity in how you can deal with not knowing. And the uncertainty is like, do you have faith? Do you have conviction in what you believe? Are you willing to die for it? Like,
Dude.
like it's in it, bro.
Yeah.
And they play with it and they mess around with it.
yeah.
But I love how they did that movie, especially. Thank you so much for showing it to me.
Yeah,
I think I watched
like-
it another time just on my own, and I was like, it's so good. It's
Like-
so good.
If you haven't seen No Country for Old Men,
Go see it.
viewer discretion is advised.
Right.
Especially, I will tell you,
It's bloody.
if you're freaked out at the beginning is rough. If you're freaked out at the beginning, no.
It gets better.
Well, it's
It's
not that crazy
The whole time.
through the whole. It calms down a bit.
There's rises.
It gets back up to. Go see the movie. Just see the movie.
Guard your heart, but go see the movie.
Guard your heart. It might be a little much. Go see the movie. But yeah, like what you're saying with the whole ambiguous ending and like I never thought of it like that. The fact that they don't even act like it's like they put this element in the story and like they're just like this. It's out of our control. Even though they're the ones making the story, it's like we don't know. Like
Certainly
so
is
cool.
true. It is a story.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's certainly like, is that a true story? Like, nah, I couldn't swear to every detail. It's certainly true. It's a story. Like, oh, like, but like that they did that like times 6 in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs because it's like every single ending is ambiguous and it's also not what you would expect.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to like get into each one. Well, I do, but like I shouldn't because like I don't want to like spoil.
No, it's all right.
All 6.
But that's
of them.
the tradition.
But it's like you know each one, and you could think about how that's true. Like like the first one, like okay, so like where does the man in black go from here? Like what does he do now? What's his story since he sort of like took things over? And then like I don't know what is the second one. The second one pretty much had a pretty firm ending. I guess you could ask like what happened to that girl. At the end, or what happened to the I don't freaking know the cattle rustler who like saved the dude's life and then like ditched him. Like you could do, but like it's so awesome. It's so cool.
And I think we talked about that a little bit with Buster Scruggs. I don't think we ever talked about it with No Country, but like how there is so much. That's the tradition of the short story, pretty much, and that really episodic nature that the Coen brothers did with Buster Scruggs, kind of like leaving you after like really only like 15 to 20 minutes, with each round. That's like, I mean, that's how short stories were done, and that's how weird fiction. I took a class on this. It's kind of weird. Like weird fiction, like the H.P. Lovecrafts. All these guys who go into the dark and the kind of occult, like horror stories, like horror short stories, like Goosebumps is in this kind of tradition. It's a little bit longer, but like ghost stories even, it's like you're left with this suspense and not quite knowing, and that's the point. Yeah. Like the horror is in the ambiguity. It's always in the ambiguity, and how well you can deal with that, like whether or not your worldview allows you to have any kind of conviction that you're okay without the knowledge of what could happen. It's like that's how you're going to determine your sanity. Dang. Dude, I would definitely. It's harder to read because the guy it's a little bit older. Like it's a different style of writing. But H.P. Lovecraft. He wrote the Cthulhu mythos, which has been spoofed by South Park and a bunch of other people. And everyone else. People just kind of ran through that train, I think especially from South Park. But the original mythos was kind of what we read for that class, like an intro to like weird fiction and stuff like that. Just it is intensely gripping in that same way where it's like it's that thing where it's like slow. I compare it a lot to especially that the miner in Buster Scruggs. A lot of them are like that. Or especially the carriage. That carriage one, that fits right in. Like imagine that, but like the bro's got like dozens of short stories and it's all along those lines. And it's incredible just like how much like the ambiguity again, but like how gripping you get sucked into it and you get terrified and you leave terrified, but you're also like, this is surprisingly real. Like, cause it reminds you of just how much you don't know, and like how much is left to be discovered. And, what is it? I think it's like a Disney quote. It's like, go explore, but don't be afraid of what you might find type of thing. Is it Disney?
I don't know.
I probably messed that up. That's somebody.
Sounds like a Dr. Seuss.
That might be it.
Yeah. But dude, yeah, it's so cool. I just yeah.
And I think we'll just like kind of hit it home one more time with like just thankfully we've got the gospel.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like, and the gospel isn't about knowing everything. Thank the Lord.
Seriously, yeah.
It's about knowing one thing and letting that one thing, which is Christ, his death and his resurrection. It's two things. It's one thing, Christ. Like knowing like who, knowing that one thing gives you faith for every other thing that you don't know and that you don't have to know.
Yeah.
You have this strength and this faith and this hope because of this one thing that we know has already taken place. And we just get to rest in that and say like, life's definitely not good right now. And there are moments where we're gripped into this horror that is like the world right now, not to be super dark about it, but it's scary, but like we get to just lean into Christ, lean into his word, lean into scripture and be like, I don't know everything. I couldn't begin to interpret this book fully or like ever lay every word into my own heart, you know, to the point where like it actually stirs into me the standard of righteousness that God desires for me. But like, that doesn't matter. Christ is what matters.
Yeah.
And like, he's freaking done it already. Once and for all, bro. We get to rest.
Yeah.
We get to rest in that, bro. It's so crazy. I like it. I think that's what I have. I have one more question to ask for you, and it might be more of a shout out than anything, because you talked a little bit about your Bible study earlier, and this is a complete change of pace for anyone listening. I'm sorry. You talked about your Bible study earlier, and how it's more on campus, but run through Grace and stuff like that. But I definitely wanted to give you a little bit of time to talk about your local church specifically, even just like kind of as a sign-off thing, and like what that's been like for you, because community, man, that's real. And kind of to tie it in with what we were just talking about, it's like, while we don't know everything and we can never know anything, there are people around us who know more than we do. And we got to constantly be learning, and Christ is constantly going to be speaking through those people to us. So I definitely wanted to get your take on your local church and what that's done for you and your college experience here before we wrap this up, bro.
Yeah, well, I go to Grace Anderson here in College Station, and I'm always shocked by how many people, like I had known a few, but I'm really surprised by how many people I've run into where it's like, where do you go to church? They say like, oh, I've just been bouncing around, like I haven't really found like a church home. And like, I think it was TA at Breakaway, Timothy Ateek, said like, listen, like if you're like a sophomore and you haven't figured it out by now, pick one and stay there, because it's not about like, oh, just going to church. It's about the community. It's about the community and the people that you meet there, and like, you know, and so I'm so glad that I finally got plugged in, because for the first 2 years for me, I had been going to Grace Anderson like this whole time, because that's where my sister went, and she got plugged in. And she loved it. Yeah, Amanda.
Shout out to Amanda.
Yeah. So she would take me there, and my parents to Grace Anderson, the college service, even before I got here. Like whenever we'd come up to visit, like for a weekend, go to a game, the next day she'd be like, come to church with me, and so we would. And so that's why I started going there. Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect impression of her. But so like I just like knew it, and I really love Jacob Smith, the speaker, and so I was like, let's do it. And so that's where I go. And like for the first 2 years, it really had just been like going, listening, leaving. But like this Bible study, so like find a church. I love Grace Anderson College, 915. But like, find a church and then actually get involved. Like go to a Bible study, because it's about the community. It's about, you know, it's like a church is not a building. It is the people within it who gather and meet. And so that's what's important. So getting to know those people is going to church.
Right.
Like Concordia is like, it's 1,000, like however many members. It's so many members. It's huge. But
it feels so
small because you, like, everyone knows
each other.
And like new members get plugged in and they meet people, and like people who go on like Stars retreats. When you go on a Stars retreat, you come back with
drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you come back with 80 new best friends. It's amazing. And so like,
even in youth, bro.
Yeah, even in youth. Like even like the youth Stars retreat for like high schoolers and the middle school confirmation, mission trips and all that. Like, it's amazing. And so, getting involved with this Bible study has been so awesome. And then this discipleship group has made it even more so, because like it was super, super cool, because it's just Warren, me, and for the first semester it was this guy Greg Garrett, who's a super cool dude. He's on the marksmanship team with shotguns, and he is like I talked to him one day, and he was telling me, he was like, if I go a day and like shoot have 400 targets and only hit 399, I'm having a really bad day. And I'm like, but yeah, so he's a cool dude. But like getting to meet these people and seeing like their different views, like, and it's not necessarily that they like their views are like wildly different, like they think that, like, I don't know, like they all believe the same thing, but like
their takes
their
on
different,
God.
like perspective and the way, like honestly, sometimes it just comes down to the way that they word things.
That's
like,
huge.
It's amazing, and like one of the things, and like I've sort of been itching to bring this up because it was so cool and it blew my mind. But like one of the things that we talked about during this discipleship meeting that we had yesterday was Warren asked the question, and I'm going to ask it to you right now.
Okay.
He's like, why does God do anything?
For his glory.
You got it.
Yeah.
But like,
thanks, Sunday school.
Yay! But like, yeah, you could literally like, Jesus, like, technically yes, like
got it.
But I remember he asked me that question yesterday, and I was like, sort of stumped by it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, he asked Greg Garrett and what was his name? Mason, I think was his name. There's another guy there.
What's Mason's last name? It's not Kincaid, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Ah, okay. I thought it was someone I knew.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it was him. But they were both stumped by it too. But then he's like, he does it for his glory. He does it for God's glory. And it's like, and it might seem from our perspective, it's like it might seem kind of selfish. It's like if everything that you do was for your own glory, it's like, what the heck, you know? But that's because we're viewing it from a human perspective, where it's like if a human, like let's say everything I did, like the videos I make and whatnot, was all to glorify me and for people to see that and be like, wow, Austin's really cool, like that would come across as incredibly vain, you know? And so like, but with God, it's not that way, and here's why. It's because God has created everything, and he is at the top of it. He's the most powerful thing being.
Yeah, back to Colossians 1, bro.
Yeah, like he is he's the main man, you know? And so like if God were to do things in service and like to glorify something else,
it would be heresy.
It would mean that thing, whatever he was glorifying, would be greater than him. Which is just, and then like goodness, like that means that we should all like worship whatever that would be, because obviously, but like,
I think there's
nothing there.
Well, what's interesting to me, and like I might need to work on this theology a little bit, but I think that would be a great explanation for the Trinity.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Right, because and that's exactly, I think, why the Trinity exists. It's so that God can glorify something other than just himself, or like one head can glorify another head and can serve and can love, but at the same time be preeminent and supreme and just omnipotent over everything. That's the way I would like initially take it. It's like
I'm sorry, Jay.
No, go for it.
The example that he used was whichever gospel it's in. It's probably in multiple. The baptism of Christ. You know? Okay. So you have, it's one of those
moments where everything's present.
Everything's present. So you have God the Father. Well, we'll start with Christ. You have Christ, who's there physically as a man and God, getting baptized. Then you have God the Father up top saying, "This is my Son, whom I love, with whom I am well pleased." Yeah, and like, you know, the clouds sort of split open, and everyone heard the voice. Yeah. And the Spirit, like in the form of a dove, and like a light shone down on Christ. Like that's the Holy Spirit, and it's like. Let's see. I worded it so well in the meeting yesterday. Let me see if I can do it again. The way it works is obviously, Christ is here to do God the Father's bidding.
Right. To serve and obey the Father's will.
Serve and obey the Father's will, and to live the perfect life and die and rise again to save everyone here on earth. Thank you, Jesus. And then God is bringing honor to Christ by saying, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." And it's like everyone's like, "Oh, God likes this dude." Okay, and then
what proceeds from the Father and the Son's relationship together is that Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you have the Holy Spirit, which and then also the light that is coming down onto Jesus is confirming that this voice that everyone is hearing is coming from God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's glorifying and it's confirming that this is God the Father, and thereby glorifying him. And so it's like, dude, it's so cool, you know? And so it's like, in that way, I love how you put that. It's like, not everything is about like, he can glorify other things, but it's all still him.
He can serve and still be supreme.
Yes, exactly. And so it's like...
It's how love works, bro.
Oh, dude, it's so cool. And like, those are the kind of conversations that we have. The other one, which was also dope, which I also like, honestly, I want to like say it so I can like practice it so that I can have it like ready, you know?
Gotcha.
For like was Warren brought up Jewish weddings. Yeah, at least back in the old times. And so,
like the one at Cana where Jesus was like,
maybe
wine.
Let
it be so.
Most likely, but like it's sort of so let's see this. So you have like old time, like Israel, right? Army. So you're a dude in old army Israel, and so like at the time, if you really liked a woman, if you really like this girl, like, you know, and you're like, oh man, I want to go marry her. Like the way it worked was you would give her father
a bride price.
A bride price. Let's say with the example that Warren used was 3 goats, and so like you give the father 3 goats, and boom, and then like you might say, oh, that's awful. He's selling away his daughter just for 3 goats. It's like, well, no, because that was the price that you would pay just to get the opportunity to ask the girl to marry you. And so it's like, oh, okay, and so then from then on, the procedure would be, excuse me, would be to, this is coming to me.
Court her or?
The father, if the father said yes,
right,
he would, I believe he would take the goats. Yeah.
Throws the goats away.
He would take, So if the father said yes, you'd give him the 3 goats, and the father would invite you to dinner. If he said no, he'd say, keep your goats. I don't want you near my daughter or my son ever again. You know, like the
bye goats.
Yeah, exactly. And then he would like send you away. But like if he said yes, he would take the goats and then be like, yeah, come to dinner with my family. And so the way it would work is you'd all be sitting there, and the suitor would offer the woman of his desire.
Yes.
A cup of wine.
Right.
And that was the proposal.
Okay.
More or less. So like he offers her the cup, and if she says,
trying to buy girls drinks at the bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Creepy, now that you think. But yeah, and so
want to get married, babe?
Yeah, seriously. Well, like
that's a couple drinks later.
It's probably a good thing that that's not still the custom today. Otherwise, goodness, that'd be
yikes.
But
there's different customs today.
Yeah. Anyway, so you offer this lady a glass of wine, and if she says no, well then, like she won't take the cup of wine, and you're just sort of like, and I love, like, we were talking about this, and Greg Garrett was just like, and now you're out 3 goats. Like, dang it, my goats. Like, no, and also subsequently, the woman of your dreams said no to will you marry me? But but if the lady says yes, she will take the cup of wine, and then like at the end of the dinner, the guy will get up and say, okay, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go build an extra wing onto my father's house, so that way,
we can live together.
Like once we get married, we can live together.
The nuclear family is extended rather than separated.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or if, like, say the father dies, then we just have a big old house. Like, and we can live in this wing of the house until, like, we can go get our own house somewhere else.
Our own goats.
Exactly. Yeah. And so he would leave and go to his father's house. So then, take that and compare it to the Last Supper, right? So Jesus offers all of us this cup of wine, his blood. And then, like, if we take it, which all of his disciples did, he's like, okay, so now I got to go do this thing real quick, and I'm going to go back to my father's house and start preparing a place for us. Yeah. Isn't it so cool? And so then you think about that, and you think about communion. And it's like, so now, every time you take communion, it is God re-offering that cup to you. So it's not a matter of,
hey babe, you want to get married?
Exactly. It's not a matter of, am I worthy of Christ's love? Am I worthy of Christ's grace? It's a matter of, will you say yes? It's like, dude, it was so cool. Like, oh man, and I've been freaking out about that all day. Like, it's awesome.
I'll be thinking tomorrow.
Yeah, like,
I take my morning shot of Jesus.
Yeah, like, dude. And it's like such a different perspective on that whole thing, you know? Like, and like it's just such a perfect example of Christ's love, because the Bible constantly talks about like Christ and earth as a marriage, you know? And like the Last Supper was the proposal, you know?
Yeah.
And now, like, because we mess up, we screw up, and like, but no matter what we do, Christ still sees in us that person who he created. And he's offering to us.
Goes back to creation, bro. It was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was very good, bro. And the fact that he offers us that cup still in his blood, bro.
Yeah.
Is him still saying, hey, like, you've been bad, but I want to call you very good.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And when we say yes, you know, bro, it's great.
It's like the thrill that Christ gets when we
He's excited with us, bro. That blows me away.
Is the same thrill multiplied by infinity of a man when he proposes to his, at least, prospective wife, and she says yes.
Bro,
Think
I can't
about
relate.
that. Think about that.
But
Like, well, obviously, like, but like, you know,
yeah,
like, we've all had that dream.
well, I've asked girls out. It's
Yeah,
been
exactly.
similar.
Yeah. But like, think about like,
When the
and
girl
we've
says
all
yes,
thought
you're
about
like,
yeah,
got 'em.
Exactly, yeah. Like, there's a thrill to it, and then like we can take that and multiply it by whatever effect, like at least in our imagination, when we eventually propose to our future wives. And
Godly pursuit.
yeah, exactly.
Check on the box.
Like, yes. And so then take that imagined thrill, at least for us as of right now,
Yeah.
and multiply it by however much when Christ gets
Right.
that from us, you know? And it's just like,
And then when God sees that in Christ and the church together, that blows my mind away. This is just kind of something I was thinking about, and totally like was more of a fun fact than anything else. Do you know what David paid as a bride price for his wife Michal?
no,
Take a guess. It's not what you think it is.
it's not goats.
It's not goats. It's definitely not goats.
Scared. What was it, wine?
Nope.
I'm confused.
It was foreskins from the Philistines. That lovely story. Because Saul was doing that thing where he was like, I'm going to try and like trick David into going out into battle with the Philistines. So like he was wanting like the Philistines to like slay David in a way, you know, is kind of the hint there.
David eventually ended up doing with that one dude.
With Uriah. Bro, yeah. But it was a little bit different there. But like, because Saul, not Solomon. That's two generations later. Saul was like, hey, David, you want to be my son-in-law? David's like, yeah. And then Saul was like, okay, go out and, it's implied, like, kill 100.
That many.
You're not going into the tents and being like, hey, guys, is it okay?
Can I borrow this real quick? Yeah.
I'll bring it back. No, and like, dude goes like overboard because like the request was like 100 foreskins, which I'm like, and he brought back 200. And I was like, ain't nobody messing with David no more.
Wow.
There was like only one of David's marriages did not come as a result of some form of murder. Fun fact.
Oh, man.
Ahinoam was the normal one. David just like straight up paid for her.
How many marriages did he have?
I think 4. So there was Ahinoam, which is the normal one that he just straight up paid for. There was Michal, that was 200 foreskins. There was Abigail, which it was God that smited her former husband. But I was just like, what? Because it's the one where David and his men, they're like fleeing from Saul, and they pretty much just go ask Nabal to like care for the sojourner and like give them, you know, food to eat, like, you know, cook a feast for the Lord's men type of thing. And Nabal's like, nope. And then David's like, you have disrespected the Lord and such. And he's going on his way to like kill Nabal because of like the disrespect he's done. And Nabal's wife, Abigail, who happens to be pretty in David's eyes, goes out and stops David and is like, hey, don't kill this guy. I know he's being like rude about everything, but like, no. And David's like, thank you. The Lord will avenge me. And then like 10 days later, the Lord strikes Nabal dead. And I'm like, what? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so what, that's like Abigail, Michal, and then there's Bathsheba, which
Well, yeah.
I think most
I
people
know that one.
Yeah, most people kind of know that one where it's like,
Bye, Uriah.
have fun at the front.
It's crazy.
Rip.
God uses broken people.
He does.
But these are the kinds of conversations you can have when you get involved at your local church.
Shout out to Grace Anderson, College Service, 915.
Heck yeah. On campus Bible study. We meet at HEB, not the store. It's like the Haynes Engineering Building.
Right on.
At 7 o'clock on Wednesdays.
Thanks and gig 'em, everybody.
Yeah, but yeah, that's I guess my spiel on
Bro, I love
local
it.
church.
I love
Like those are two things that I learned just yesterday from
Nice.
getting involved in my church, and those are two things that like at least I hope like I'm gonna freaking try to force that into every conversation I can.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
that's
so cool. And like yeah, so
Dude, that's what I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
think about. I'll have to watch this again to figure
yeah, I
out
know.
how you
I'm
said
like
it.
I'm like we have a recording of it now.
Yeah.
I'm happy. But yeah,
I'll have to
Like-
watch it again to see how you said it, so I can be like, "Hey, guess what I heard?"
like it's yeah, and I don't know where Warren got it, but I mean that is
That's a heck of a connection.
yeah, that
Wow.
is a
I love
way
that.
to go about that story that can
Yeah.
really like show just how much
Yeah.
God cares for us, and I love it. So
Bro, that's so good.
yeah.
All right. Any last thing that you wanted to talk about, bro? Anything that's still on your heart, bro? You itching to speak?
That was the big one. Like I
Yeah.
walked in here today, and I'm like,
I have to tell that story.
I'm gonna find a way to.
I'm
work
glad
on
you did, bro.
something. Yeah,
I'm glad you did.
When you asked about Grace, I was like, "This is it." I went for it, and like it was the last question that you said too. So I was like, "Oh yeah, might as well." So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's probably about all I have in terms of like conversation.
Yeah.
I could ask like
Right on.
about the Super Bowl, and we could find a way to like work that into.
Oh, I
but-
think it's better as a post game recap. We might get together next week and do
Exactly, yeah.
something.
Of
Just you
course.
and I.
Yeah.
But, well, bro, it's always good to have you.
Absolutely.
And I know we could definitely go into the wee hours of the evening, but it's probably
in
best
the
for-
morning too.
Oh, in the morning. It's probably best for both of our sanities to get some rest.
Yeah, of course.
So before the big game.
Yeah,
yeah. Do you feel comfortable praying us out?
Oh, yes. All right.
I love it.
Lord God, thank you so much for Cody here, and I thank you so much for this operation that he's been starting up through you to glorify you, because that's what you do through and through. Heck yeah, there we go. And,
Get a rhyme in there. Thank you, Jesus.
And then, I thank you so much for this podcast, and I pray, Lord, that this thing just blows up all over the internet, and people are able to just witness a man, i.e. Cody, who is just absolutely chasing you with his whole heart, and I pray that they can see that, and that it will encourage them to follow suit, Lord, and to just chase you and seek to spread your name across the entire world, because that's what you call us to do. You call us to glorify you. And so I pray that you allow this message to truly reach the hearts of the people who hear it. And I pray that you continue to help this operation keep going. And I pray that you help both Cody and I in our school and in our other activities, and just help us to remember that you are at the center of it all, and help us to glorify you in absolutely everything that we do to everyone who you put around us, Lord. I thank you so much for all of this. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen, bro. Much love. Bye, everybody.
Adios.